Hey guys, Welsknight here, and welcome back to another episode of Kingdoms. I hope you guys are having an awesome day. I'm having a great day. I want to do a little something today, and that is I want to move the Nether Portal that we have in the Nether up to kind of the high levels where we're eventually going to make a Nether Hub. I don't want to make a Nether Hub today, but I at least want to get it moved into a position where we can do that. So, and every time I do stuff with Nether Portals and you have to get them properly synced, there's always at least a couple people who ask, how do you make sure a Nether Portal is synced? How does that work? So let's go over it. It's actually super easy. So basically, you come to your portal, right? This is the portal in the overworld. You find the coordinates. The coordinates here are negative 5059. We can ignore the Y coordinate, and negative 2861. Okay, so those are our coordinates. We'd write those down. I've already written them down in a little notepad document on my second monitor, and I've already done the math. You do have to do math. It's not very hard math, but you have to do math. So, we know that our overworld coordinates for the portal are negative 5059 and negative 2861. As I said, we can ignore the Y coordinate for this. So we need to make sure that our Nether Portal, in other words, the one that's in the Nether, are those numbers divided by 8. So if you take those numbers and you divide them by 8, we don't really need this anymore, at least not for the moment. We know that the portal that's in the Nether has to be at negative 633, because that's negative 5059 divided by 8. Negative 358, because that's negative 2861 divided by 8. So you basically just take the overworld coordinates of the portal and divide them by 8, and that's where your portal in the Nether has to be. It's really that simple. It's not that hard to do. But as long as you have that correct, then you're good. And you basically have 8 blocks of wiggle room, because remember, 1 block of traveling in the Nether is equal to traveling 8 blocks in the overworld. So I've dug out a little tunnel, or ladder, or whatever you want to call it, that goes up here to Y level 113. I'm doing Y level 113 because that's the Y level that our Nether transportation stuff was all on last season. And eventually, not right now, but eventually I'm going to want to connect the portal, or the Nether hub here, up to the Nether hub way over by like 0, 0. And I want to make sure that it's all on the same Y level. And this works pretty well because we've got some space up above, but we're high enough that for the most part, we're just tunneling through stuff and we don't have to worry too much about running into problems. So anyway, we need to get this Nether portal in the right spot. So negative 358 is going to be this way. So let's go right here. Okay, so here's negative 358. And then we need negative 633, which is this way. And you can see that the one portal was off by actually, it looks like quite a bit. So let's just throw a torch down here so you guys can actually see what's going on. So negative 633, negative 358. If I've done my math correctly, then this should be the location of our portal so that it syncs up properly with the one in the overworld, I think. And as I said, I want to get stuff up on this level. I don't want to make a Nether hub today. And I honestly don't think that our Nether portal is going to stay in the same location. I think it's probably going to end up moving somewhere else, the one in the overworld. But for now, we'll put a portal in right here. So, yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm looking at it like it's all weird, but anyway, get these in, light it, and this should take us straight to the portal at the bottom of our mines, and it does. There we go. And then when I go back through, it should take me to the portal that we just dug. And it does. And usually, you won't always notice a portal that's desynced if there are no other portals around, but it can really mess some things up if you're not careful. So, got to be a little cautious, but it's well worth it. So, what I want to do in today's episode, now that we have that done, right, there's a couple things that I kind of want to start digging pathways to. If we head down the ladder, and there's probably other ways that we could get up and down, but the ladder just kind of works for the moment, and it keeps me safe from ghasts and stuff like that. But if we head down, I was doing a little bit more exploring between episodes. We've got that nether, oh hi, and I don't have a bow. We'll just have to do it oh, I missed. Did we get him? Nope, I missed again. I can't see. Oh, okay, this is bad. This is very bad. Let's not stand here. There's like, I don't know how much of that's left. Okay, we're just gonna, sometimes the better part of the braver thing to do is to live to fight another day. But anyway, if we follow this trail of stone blocks that I left behind for me to follow, it'll eventually take us to another fortress, right? And we've been to this nether fortress together, so it is what it is. But I was exploring, and there's actually like a whole chain of nether fortresses. There's like one right after the other. Like I think it's like 2 or 3, maybe even like 4 nether fortresses. Like when you get to one, you could just kind of start to make out another one and another one. And they're pretty close together to the point where I actually thought a couple of them were connected at one point. And I think I would really love to see if I haven't explored all the fortresses fully or anything like that, but I would really, really love to see if we can find like a dual blaze spawner and make a blaze farm. That would be awesome. And that would actually be a really good source of experience as well. I know we have the end, and we will want to make a portal that goes to the end at some point. You know, now that we found our end portal, we found it last episode, but it's a huge distance. Like, it's a major distance. So I'll definitely want to make a way to get to that in the nether. But I think in the meantime, a double blaze spawner could be kind of fun. We're going to have to get our hands on some basic materials, but there's a few designs that I've found that I've found on YouTube and stuff like that are quite clever. And that's right, our portal's not actually down here anymore. It's over here now. I almost forgot. We got rid of the one that was down below. So I'm going to go into the overworld. I'm going to kind of prepare myself for a little bit of adventuring in the nether, and I'm going to see if I can maybe track down like a double blaze spawner and get a way to get there in the nether setup. And I think that could be really good for us. So let me do some off-camera work here, guys. I'll be back with you in just a little bit. All right, guys, let's go on a little bit of a journey. I've been doing some exploring of the nether portals. This you recognize. This is the portal. This is the nether fortress here that has no stairs in it. If you follow our trail of breadcrumbs, it leads to another nether fortress over here. And you can see I've been busy. While we're on our little pathway, I do want to talk about one very quick thing. I mentioned this yesterday in yesterday's Hermitcraft video, but last week was Kingdoms Week, which means there was lots and lots and lots of kingdoms. Like, it was basically all kingdoms, no Hermitcraft. And as much as I love kingdoms, can't go forever without doing Hermitcraft, so we got to do some Hermitcraft as well. So as of now, we should be back to a more normal schedule where we're going to have kingdoms and Hermitcraft switching off every other day, or at least that's the plan. I mean, obviously, things are always subject to change. You know, something could come up. There might be a day or two where I don't have 2 videos coming out or something like that. But the plan is every day, or every other day, we will have a Kingdoms video, and then the next day will be a Hermitcraft, and then a Kingdoms, and then a Hermitcraft, and so on and so forth. This ghast needs to go. I missed it. This slime also needs to go. Please go, slime. Slime, please. Just, this is not a place where I want to be engaged in combat, particularly. Can we just, like... Okay, slimes are gone, ghast is gone. Okay, anyway. So yeah, every other day, Kingdoms, Hermitcraft. That's the plan. They'll be switching back and forth, and then I'll have... I should also probably mention, Sprout and Hermit Quest are going to be... basically, Sprout's going to come out in the days that Hermit Quest doesn't. And Hermit Quest comes out on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So, or at least until Hermit Quest is done. Obviously, with any of those like PvP type series, we record them all in one day. And then, the series ends when it ends, when the event is concluded. So at this point in the pathway, I could see another fortress over there, but I couldn't see any way to get to it. I knew it was over there, though, so I just kind of decided to tunnel and hope that I eventually ran into it. And I did indeed. I explored these fortresses, didn't really find what I was looking for. But when I came over here, this thing continues to extend out in this direction, so we just kept going. Eventually, I came to a point over here and I could see more fortresses, and I was like, well, let's take a look and peek and see what's over here. And as I stood here, I saw a blaze spawner and another blaze spawner. We have a dual blaze spawner right here. They're within range, or at least they should be. If I stand right about where that flame is right now, I should be close enough to activate them both, I think. I'm pretty sure I will be in range of both. I need to actually disable them and test the distances and everything like that to make sure. But I think these two are close enough that I'll be able to make a dual blaze spawner, which is going to be super awesome. Like that, I'm very excited for that. I think I made like a very simple, like poor man's blaze farm once, but I've never made like a proper one. So that's a project that I definitely want to take on this season. I took the liberty of making a path that goes up this ladder and leads all the way back to our main portal. So we can actually get over here much more easily than taking that kind of convoluted path in the Nether. I think the next step for me is I want to go ahead and get a portal that goes to the end. And I know the coordinates without exploring anymore for it because I showed them last episode, so I can just look back at my footage and figure out exactly where that portal was. So I'm going to start digging a path towards that. I've already got some obsidian and stuff like that with me. I'm bringing the shulker box, just in case, mostly because I'm going to have tons of netherrack. This is the shulker box that we brought with us from last season. But I want to make a portal that goes to the end, so I'm going to work on that next, and I'll be back with you in a little bit. All right, we have a nether pathway that goes to the end, and we're here at the end. Last episode, I asked if we should be able to use the Enderman farm that we built in Season 1, and the vast majority of the comments, I think there was only like one comment that I saw, maybe like two, that said don't use it, but the vast majority of them said either use it or use it until you build a new one. And that's really what I want to do, is use it until I build a new one. Or I should say that's what I plan to do. Because once we build a better Enderman farm, there's really not going to be any reason to use this one. But until we have a different source of experience, I think I do want to make use of this lovely experience farm. So I'm going to regenerate all my tools and everything, get us back on track, and then I'm going to head back home, do some resource gathering, and we'll be able to get a little bit of building done in this episode. All right, guys, I am back. I've been out doing some resource collecting. My axe, you can see, has taken a little bit of damage. And I basically just went out and gathered a bunch of oak wood because we're going to use that to build a dock. I think I would like to add a dock to the village. So let's just grab a couple things here. We'll probably need, we should probably grab a crafting bench right there. There we go. And then I think I'm going to hold off on fences for now. While I'm building the dock, I do want to jump into the comment or question of the day. I know it's a little bit earlier in the video than we normally do, but this is a topic that I could talk about for quite some time. So let's jump into it. Today's comment is from Matthew Noonan, and he says, "Hey Wells, would you care to offer any advice for a young adult in their last year of school? Great work as always." So that is an interesting question, and it depends on what you mean when you say the last year of school, because my advice for someone in like their senior year of high school or secondary school, you might call it, depending on where you are in the world, my advice for someone in their senior year of high school would be very different from my advice for someone, say, in their senior year of college. Those would be two very different things. So I think I'll just cover both. Why not? Let's just talk about both of them. Let's start with high school. So, senior year of high school. I graduated high school in 2008. So it's been a little while, it's been a little while since I was in high school, but I remember that there was like such a pressure to go to university, go to college. I mean, my entire senior year seemed like it was just filled with, what colleges have you applied for? Have you applied for scholarships yet? Did you send in application letters? Did you get accepted? Where are you going? What's your major going to be? On and on and on and on and on it went, just forever. Like, that's all that anybody cared about was, where are you going to college? Are you going to college? What's your, et cetera, et cetera. And it's so easy to get like swept up. You just get completely swept up in it, and you just kind of like think, I have to go to college. That's the next step. That's just what has to be done. And my advice would be, if you're not sure what you want to do with your life, don't feel like you have to go to college right away, right after high school. I actually ended up going, I've got 5 years of college or university, depending, once again, where you live in the world. Some places call it college. We call it college here in the States. In other countries, they often call it university. It's the same thing. But I've got like 5 years of college at this point. No degree. I have no degree. I went to college originally to be a political science major. And then I found out that I kind of hated political science and that it was really boring. I thought it was going to be a lot more exciting than it was, and I quickly grew bored of it. So I'm like, I really don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So then I decided, well, let's try something else. And I had my freshman year of college, I had an absolutely amazing psychology professor. I can't remember his name, but he was a retired colonel in the Air Force. He was just a really interesting guy, had a way of just really making psychology seem very interesting. So I said, I'll be a psych major. Let's do a psychology thing, right? I'll try being a psych major. So I tried that out, had psychology classes the next year, found out that really psychology I only found interesting because my professor my freshman year was amazing, and I actually found psychology as a whole, again, kind of boring, not really my cup of tea. So then I ended up dropping out of college for a few years, and I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to work. I'll just find a regular job and just kind of do that, focus on my military career a little bit, focus on, just figuring out what I want to do with my life. And that's what I did for several years before I finally went back to college. And when I went back to college, I was an English education major, and that's what I almost graduated as. I was very close to graduating before I ended up finding out that I was getting deployed, and that obviously kind of made me drop out of college because deployments and attending classes full-time really don't go together very well. So I ended up dropping out of college, and by the time my deployment was over, I kind of was at the point where I was like, I'm going to do this YouTube thing full time. I'm earning enough money on YouTube where I can. I enjoy it more than, anything I've ever done before. It's something I'm passionate about, and, let's give this a try. And, now here I am, a couple years later. So the long story short is that, I did college for 5 years, and the only thing that I have to show for it is a bunch of credits that don't really count for anything, and a bunch of student loan debt. So it's one of those things where I would say, if you're not sure what you want to do with your life, don't feel like you have to go to college instantly. Don't feel like it's the absolute must, the absolute next step where that's what you have to do. It's not necessarily what you have to do right after high school. You can take a couple years off if you're not sure what you want to do with your life. My advice would be, just work for a couple years. Find a job that's not necessarily like a career type job. Maybe find a job in retail, find a job in customer service, or any number of different things. Consider possibly joining the military if that's something that would appeal to you potentially. That's a good time to do it, is right out of high school when you haven't yet figured out what you want to do long-term with your life, that's a good time to join the military if that's, and don't get me wrong, the military is not for everybody. I'm not saying everyone should join the military. That would be ridiculous. In fact, the military is the wrong decision for a lot of people. You need like a certain personality type to do to be in the military and to, find a sense of fulfillment being in the military. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everyone should join the military. I'm just saying that like that's something that you can consider. But the big thing is my advice would be, if you don't know what you want to do with your life, don't feel like you have to go to college. Because I remember when I was in high school, my senior year, I felt like I had to go to college. I felt like that was the rule. That was just how life worked. You go to high school and then you go to college and then you get a job and then you're an adult, and that's how life works. That's just the way that I felt, because I got so swept up in all the college applications and all the, choosing a major and deciding where you wanted to go to school and all these other things that I kind of never really considered. I don't really have to go to college right now. I could do other things first. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't go to college. Don't get me wrong. Again, I'm saying if you're not sure, don't go to college because you feel pressured to go to college, I guess is what I'm saying. Because keep in mind, college is not free. College is very expensive, at least if you live in the United States or in any country that doesn't just provide free college for everybody. I think Germany does, if I remember correctly. Germany actually, if you go to a public university, you don't have any tuition, which is amazing. But that would be my advice for high school seniors is before you go to college, make sure you know what you want to do, and don't go to college just because you feel like you are pressured to. That would be my advice there. As for college seniors, that's a little bit different. What would my advice be for college seniors? My advice for college seniors would be, it's not always easy to find a job as a college senior. I have a very good friend of mine, the guy who was the best man at my wedding, went to a 4-year college, got a degree in communications. He is now a teller at a bank, which is what he's been for a couple years. He is not using his communications degree per se in any sort of field that's in a communications field. He found that he couldn't find a communications job, so he now works as a bank teller. And I think he's actually like a manager now. A lot of places don't really care what degree you have as long as you have one. But don't be shocked if whatever field you went into is a field that you can't necessarily find a job in. So don't be afraid to work in other fields for a while, and you might find something you love to do. What I would say is that certainly value a sense of enjoyment and a sense of fulfillment in your work over money. I would say that is like the single most important thing for being happy. I would so much rather work a job like YouTube, for example, where I love what I do and I look forward to working every single day, than a job where I get paid insane amounts of money, but I absolutely hate my life while I'm working. That's just one of those things. My dad always used to say, if you find a job you love to do, my dad has been self-employed almost his entire life. And he always used to say, son, if you ever find something you love to do, if you do something you love to do as as your job, you'll never work a day in your life. And it's very true. If I'm being entirely honest, when it comes to like the money that I make on YouTube, I get paid well on YouTube, relatively. I can pay my bills. I have enough money to put a little bit into savings every month, etc. But I could make considerably more money doing things in other fields. I've got, at this point, over a decade of paralegal experience from the military. I've got a court reporter certification. I have all these different skill sets where I could probably make a lot more money in other fields. But often those other fields would be things that I would not necessarily enjoy my work. I wouldn't necessarily love what I do. I would potentially spend a lot more time away from home and away from my wife. I would potentially be working for a boss who's kind of a jerk. You never know. And on it goes. So I would much rather work a job where I get paid enough to get by, but I'm happy, over a job that, just pays me buku stacks of cash for sure. I think that there's a math term for it, but I don't remember it. But basically, there's this idea of where it's like a declining. The words escape me, but basically, it's the idea that something is better until it reaches a certain point, and then once it reaches like a certain level, it drops off very quickly. And I think that's very true of like money, right? Like, if you don't have enough money to pay your bills and put food on the table, life is hard. But I think as long as you have enough money to sustain yourself and to meet your needs, make sure the lights stay on at your house, make sure there's food on the table, et cetera, once you're able to just, live off the money that you make, I think money beyond that point is not as important, at least to me. I've heard people say something like, people who say money can't buy happiness have never gone hungry before, and things like that. And to an extent, that's true. Like, if you are in a financial situation where you can't afford basic necessities like food and water and electricity and stuff like that, then yeah, you're probably going to be fairly miserable. But I don't think there's really a significant difference in happiness, so to speak, for lack of a better word, between making, say, enough money to pay all your bills and put a little bit of extra into savings every month. Say, like, where I live in the United States, that's probably, I'd say like $40,000 a year is probably like the average cost of living around here for like a small family living in a reasonable home. And, I'd say $40,000 a year you're able to get by where I live. Obviously, cost of living varies depending on where you live in the world and all that kind of stuff. But, I don't think there's really a huge difference between someone in my area who makes, say, $45,000 a year versus someone who makes $60,000 a year. I don't think that's really that big of a difference as far as like how happy they are based on financial needs. I think as long as you're making enough that you're not worried about money because you're living paycheck to paycheck, I think the added happiness you get, so to speak, from additional money beyond that point is relatively low until you get up into the levels where you're making like ridiculous amounts of money. If you take someone who's making $45,000 a year and give them a raise where suddenly they're making, millions of dollars a year, yeah, they're probably going to be pretty excited about that. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But I guess my advice would be, for a college senior, focus on something that you enjoy. Look for a job in a field that you enjoy doing, and don't be, disheartened if you can't get a job that directly applies whatever field your degree is in. So that would be kind of my takeaway there. Let's just take a little nap here. So yeah, just to recap, my advice for a high school senior would be don't go to college just because you feel like you have to go to college. Don't feel pressured like it's something you have to do. Don't be afraid to take a couple years off after high school and, just work or do something other than going to university, so that you don't just go do what I did and spend a bunch of years in college and then not really get anything to show for it. And my advice for college seniors would be, prioritize your happiness over your paycheck, I guess would be the way to put it. So, and we've got a very simple little doc here. This is something I'm going to want to improve on. I was just kind of winging this, but, and it looks okay. I think we can do better for sure. We may want to make like a little retaining wall and bring it up a bit. I don't know yet. We'll have to see. This is supposed to be a fishing village, so I don't want like a full-blown port here. But maybe what I'm going to have to do is look at some pictures of actual like fishing villages and try to get some inspiration that way. This will work for now. It's something, but I think we can do better. But unfortunately, guys, I am out of time for this episode, so I think I'm going to have to go ahead and call this one right here. My friends, if you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Links in the description below, so check that out as well. Otherwise, my friends, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.